if I had to tell anyone going into college where they felt like they had to like figure out their life, it would just be like, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. You don't have to.
Hi, welcome to Adulthood Pending Podcast. I'm Brittany.
I'm Annalise.
And I'm Kimmy.
We are a podcast for college students, recent graduates, or anyone else who is also figuring out that being an adult isn't as simple as it's made out to be. Join us each episode as we share how we are navigating our careers, post-grad lives, and the whole adulting experience.
Today we're joined by Rena Patel, an entertainment law fellow at Loyola Law School, author, playwright, and screenwriter. Rena is another Scripps alumna who graduated in 2019 with a degree in English and creative writing. She's currently in the process of publishing her debut novel, Here We Stand, a modern fantasy novel loosely based on the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, with influences from her own culture as a South Asian woman from an immigrant family. We're really excited to bring her on to talk about her book, passion projects, and her incredible adulthood journey in both the law and the writing sphere. So welcome, Rena, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you.
To start off, where are you in your adulthood journey?
And
take that however you want to define adulthood. That's all up to you.
I don't know. Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I don't fucking know, you guys. I feel like half of me is like, oh yeah, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now, and the other part of me is like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Like I'm just trying to do things one day at a time, and like I think every day I feel like I'm learning something new about myself and about like the publishing process or law school, or like just what it means to call someone and out of the blue and be like, hey, can you do this thing for me? Like, sorry, I've never spoken to you in my life, but I need this thing done. So I don't know, you guys. It's been, I think I'm okay. I think I'm at a place where I'm like, I kind of know what's going on, but like, yeah, I honestly, I feel like that changes every day. Some days I wake up and I'm like, I don't know. We'll see what happens today.
Yep.
Same
I mean,
here.
the fact that you feel 50-50 or something with some sort of percentage is pretty good, I would say.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with another fun question. And on the note of passion projects, we just want to ask, what's a hobby that you've been meaning to pick up?
Oh, that I've been meaning to pick up. So through middle school and high school, I was in choir, and then I did it for one semester at Scripps, and then was like, oh, I have no time for this. And that kind of became something that I like, it just kind of was a thing in the back burner. Like I remember like in high school, I feel like your Instagram bio caption had to like represent you in some way. And for me, I had written that I was like a writer, singer, theater lover, and like blah 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 blah. And then I got to college and I was like, I'm not singing anymore, so maybe I should take that out.
Remove it.
So I did, I think. I don't know. I can check my Instagram later. But yeah, I feel like I kind of want to get back into that. I don't know any instruments. I never had like, I tried learning piano. My parents weren't the type of people to be like, you have to learn an instrument. They were just like, get A's and don't do anything else. So I would just get A's sometimes, and
Sometimes.
I mean, it was great until I got to college. But yeah, so I would just get A's and read, and that was my life growing up. Because no one forced me to do anything else. So I was just like, yeah, but I wasn't allowed to like go play with other kids on my street. So I was just like, yeah, I'll just read books after school, because homework took like 20 minutes in third grade. The good old days. But yeah, so I kind of want to maybe pick up an instrument. I feel like guitar would be really fun. Like I want to be that basic person, like learn how to play guitar. I tried learning how to play piano. It I can't get my fingers to do different things at the same time.
It's hard because like your right hand's doing one thing, your left hand's doing another. It's some brain work that needs to be done.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say that, and maybe get in, just like sing for fun and post it without it being something like, I don't know, it doesn't have to be super edited or fancy. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I just want to like be like, oh, this is the thing that I did. I mean, hey, go for it. I feel like that's a fun hobby to have.
Well, I wanted to be a YouTuber.
Is that your
like,
hobby?
No, I wanted to be a YouTuber like peak 2008, 2009 when everyone was on it. We're not gonna go there, Kimmy. We're not gonna go on my go down my past.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I think growing up, that was like my dream to be a YouTuber, especially with like all the vloggers coming out on the scene. But I think lately, totally different, but lately I think a hobby that I've been meaning to pick up is embroidering.
Oh,
not really,
cool.
YouTubing, but yeah, I think it's like fun, the ones with like the circle that people do, and then they just like stitch stuff.
Along the Pride and Prejudice-esque sphere, my hobby I always wanted to pick up is ballroom dancing.
Really?
Yeah, that's like the first thing I want to do once like everything opens up, because I just want to like have that skill. If I ever find myself at a cotillion, like I just want to like know what to do,
How often do you get invited to cotillions?
Not often, but like maybe like I'll send my kid to like some boarding school and then just get a few invites then, and then I'll know what to do.
Oh my gosh. So you're going to be there 20 years in advance.
Oh my God. As someone who went to a boarding high school, nothing fancy ever happens like that.
Okay. Well, then I guess I need to find
I guess
to get invited.
I guess if you sent your kid to like one of those old East Coast
boarding
schools. Okay, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I went to boarding school in California, so we didn't have any of those fancy things.
Kimmy, what's your hobby?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I think for me, it's like learning a language. Recently, we've actually been learning Cantonese with my grandma. So that's been fun. Like, and doing that, I've realized, wow, I really like learning languages. Like, I actually feel like it's very fun. So I definitely want to learn Spanish. And when I was watching K-dramas, I wanted to learn Korean. So those are still on the horizon, and probably get better at Mandarin because it's very weak, if at all. So like actually learning a language and learning it well enough to be or to travel to the country where they speak it, and like being able to operate through the native language there.
That's really ambitious. I commend you.
It's a hobby.
It's a hobby.
Like 4 languages, no problem.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, Rena, as a fellow former pre-med English major, would you like to kind of give your background of maybe your path to college, like what you think you wanted to do versus how it actually turned out?
Yeah. You are the only one out of the two of us that has actually stayed on the English pre-med track, which I commend you on, because my God, that was hard. But so my mom's a doctor, and it was never like spoken. It was never like a thing that was like, oh, you have to be a doctor, but it was kind of implicit in a way that was just like, oh, if you like reading these biology textbooks, you should be a doctor. And I didn't ever find it like uninteresting, and science was cool. I mean, science is cool. It has not changed. But and like when like, I don't know, coming from immigrant families where education is the route to success, and if you don't do well in every subject, then something is wrong. So like growing up, all of my teachers were like, you could do anything because you're good at everything, and I was like, cool, but I don't know what I like yet. Like I like this and I like that, and I'm getting A's on all of these things, because if I don't, then I'm gonna get like yelled at when I get home. So I guess to backtrack a little bit, I had an idea for my first book, which is not Here We Stand. When I was in sixth grade, I was reading Narnia at the time, and one of my classmates got stuck in the PE cupboard for 20 minutes. He like went to go do something. The teacher sent him somewhere, and he like I think and he got locked in for 20 minutes until someone heard him like banging on the door,
Oh my
let him
gosh.
out. And I like he comes back and he's like, I got stuck. And we're all like 12 years old, so we all start laughing. But in my brain, having read Narnia very recently, I was like, what if he got stuck there and then he found a different way out? And then he just came back and no one ever noticed. So that turned into this book about a high school boy, because when you're like 12 years old, you're like, yes, all good adventures happen when you're 16. That is when
The
all
sweet
young adult
spot.
novels happen. So like 16 years old, something amazing has to happen. So there's a 16-year-old boy who got trapped in a tunnel, and like went through it and found himself in a magical land. And I wrote that through middle school and finished it a couple days before I started high school.
Wow.
And it was like a legit book. It was like 260 pages. I was
Oh my
very
gosh.
proud of it.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was like, I knew I wanted to write for like, I think starting from sixth grade. I was like, oh, I really like reading. I really like telling stories. I'm good at it, I guess. People like what I've written.
Mhm.
My seventh grade English teacher was very instrumental in encouraging me with all of that. He'll say that he'll say that he was just like like if he uses this analogy that was like, I'm just the coach that gave Michael Jordan the ball.
Oh my gosh.
like 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 um like I'm still in touch with him, and I told him, I was like, legit, I don't think I would be here without like the amount of support and time that you gave me in seventh grade. And he was like, you're selling yourself too short. And I was like, okay, well, like you also need to take a little bit of credit for this. Like just a little bit, just accept it. But yeah, so I knew I wanted to write. And then in high school, that's kind of when, like, I don't know if your parents were like this, but my parents, I think when I was like 16, were kind of like, you need to figure out what you want to do. Because when I was 16, I knew what I wanted to do. And it's like, yeah, when you were like, my mom did everything in India. It's like when you were 16, 17, you were taking the exams to get into the schools that you needed to do for your profession. So she kind of had to know what she wanted to do. And then my dad had moved to the US when he was 14, and being an immigrant and being a teenager and knowing that, I guess, like having that kind of pressure that like I have to do really well to get to a point where my parents aren't worried about our financial standing. So I'm sure like he faced probably a lot of internal pressure to make that happen. So he was like, yeah, I'm going to do engineering. And my mom went into medicine. And because they were both driven by the desire to be good at what they did and to make sure that they could live comfortably. And I don't have that problem because they already gave me all of that. So so I'm over here being like, well, like, what do I want? Like I have the I have the ability to and the privilege to worry about that instead of worrying about like, okay, well, like, how am I going to make money?
Right.
Which is a huge thing. And so in high school, one of my dad's college friends ended up becoming a psychiatrist, and I had written this really weird story that I had based off of a nightmare about a woman who is able to control the corpses of those that she's killed. Really interesting story. I really liked it, and I told it from the perspective of the woman. And then my dad's friend came to visit, and he was like, oh, I heard you write stories, like, do you mind showing me one? And I was like, I'm ready to be psychoanalyzed. And so I gave him that story. And he read it, and then he looks up at me and says, I think you'd be a good psychiatrist. And I was like, is that supposed to be a compliment? Because if it is, thanks. That's what you got from this weird story of an old woman who harbors a really bad grudge against an ex-lover and is like controlling corpses. Cool. So I guess the idea kind of stuck with me because I researched into it and was like, oh, this is interesting. I've always wanted to help people in some way. And it kind of seemed like it was a good way for me to keep my love of learning about people and stories and experiencing that with helping people and talking through things, kind of like, because I feel like therapy is kind of like story building. You're kind of trying to help like a character along in a way. I'm not a therapist, so that's not like, don't take that from me as like oh, this is exactly how therapy works. But that was something I was always interested in, and that drove me through high school and being like, yeah, I'm gonna do med school, and I'm still gonna write. I was always like upset when people were like, oh yeah, you're just gonna write on the side, right? And I was like, no, I like, writing is what I want to do, but I have to get like a real job. So I was like, yeah, I'll just do medicine because I am good at science and I like it enough, and I'll do that. And then I got to college and I was like, it's fine, but like, maybe I don't like it as much as I thought I did. Or like, maybe like, cause like, I think when you get to college and then you're not just doing like the basics of the Krebs cycle anymore. Right. You're like, you have to like go into it. And it's not just bio, it's chemistry and it's organic chemistry. And it's like, and then you have to take physics for some godforsaken reason. And it's all of these things that I was like, I'm not interested in this. I like biology and I like reading and I like psychology and I like literature and I like writing. And I think at that point it was kind of like, I could continue doing this and I could do it. I'd be fine. I would, and like, I like, people were like, you would make a great doctor. But it came to a point where I was like, would I be happy continuing to do science and then going to med school for 4 years and really having to dedicate myself to only learning science and getting really into the technicalities and having to learn all of that, and then spending another 4 years finally doing a residency in the thing that I was interested in, and then being able to establish myself in a career. And then I had that turn, and seeing my next 8 years filled with things that I was not interested in, was not something that I wanted to do at that point. And I came to that realization fall semester of my senior year at Scripps. So
so you had plenty of time, basically.
I had plenty of time. Yeah. Well, it was, I mean, sophomore year, I was taking organic chemistry and I enjoyed it. I just, because there was no math in it. I was like, yes, finally. But I was getting to the point where I was like, I don't think I'm happy. And I think I'm like, I'm looking forward to my English classes a lot. And my science classes are things that I feel like I have to take. And so at Scripps, I was like, maybe instead of psychiatry, I'll like apply for a PhD program in psychology. I'll like minor in psych and then like do that. That didn't end up happening. But because it was just, yeah, I don't know. And I think I had to like really figure out what drove me. Like, I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to work, like have a job where it was just a job. I needed to have some sort of passion involved in my career. It might not be like obviously no one loves 100% of everything about their job, but I wanted to have a job where even if I could retire, I wouldn't want to. Like I would just enjoy doing it, and be okay with the bad parts because the good parts outweighed the bad. That's a very tall order to figure out as like as someone in your early 20s. And yeah, so I decided to not do medicine anymore. I had biochemistry left, and I think that was the tipping point. I was like, I've done all of this. And then I looked at the biochem curriculum, and I was like, no, not today, not ever.
The sign.
Yeah. But yeah, I think ultimately it was my stubbornness that was like, if you can do it, then why don't you? And it's just like it's learning just because you can do it doesn't mean that you have to do it. That was I think, yeah, if I had to tell anyone going into college where they felt like they had to like figure out their life, it would just be like, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. You don't have to. That was like the main lesson in college. And just because you feel like you can't do something doesn't mean that you can't. Like do what you want. Don't worry about other things.
So then how did you get into studying entertainment law?
So my junior year of college, for spring break, I went to DC to visit my cousin who was in law school at the time. And she had a very interesting path after college. She studied materials engineering as an undergrad, and then was like, I don't want to be stuck in a lab for the rest of my life. And so she took a couple years off work, or off school, and was working as a consultant for a little while. And then one of her projects was with a law firm, with like a patent law firm, and they put her on there because she had a materials engineering background. And she really liked it, so she applied to law school. And when I was visiting her, she was in her last year. She was in her last semester of law school. And I, like, at that point, I was like telling other people that I probably didn't want to do medicine, but I hadn't told my parents yet. Because I was just, and my cousin was like, hey, like, if you want to stop by one of my, like, a couple of my classes, I can ask the professors if that you can just like sit in on them. I was like, cool, yeah, sure. So I sat in on a privacy class, which funnily enough is now is one of the electives I'm taking this semester. But the class was like super dry. They were talking about HIPAA, and I was just fascinated with the way they were talking about it, because it felt like I was in English class again, and I was like, this I vibe with. I can do this. And I just, like, for me, one of the things I love about literature is when you can like really close read and get into the nitty-gritty. I know some people hate it, but some people are like, you know what, sometimes blue just means it's blue, it doesn't mean anything else. But it's really fun to just like go into things and try to figure out why someone chose that string of words, like, and what that particular phrase means, and really getting into to all of that. And that law a lot of the times is like having to manipulate language in a way that helps, like you have a law, but depending on what side you're on, you have to kind of make it work for you. That was really interesting to just see how on a scholarly level how law is taught, and how you can see all of these aspects of it. And so like I was sitting there in class being like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And like I was sitting next to my cousin and a friend of hers, and they were just like they had like glassy eyed look, and they were like, yeah, this is HIPAA. This is so dry. And like she apologized afterwards, being like, I'm sorry, that class was like really boring. And I was like, no, I enjoyed it. It was like 2 hours, and I was like, yeah, gimme. I this is great. And so that's when I was kind of like, maybe I could think about law, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do with law. at that point I was like, maybe I would want to like go into policy, because I like at that point I was still like, well, I want to help people. And not to say that I'm not still doing that, but but at that point I had a very like different idea about what helping people looked like. I thought it had to be very direct, and it had to be like like either as a doctor you're directly treating someone and you can see that the effect that you have on them like firsthand. As a And I was like, well, like I don't know, maybe I would like to like write policy and stuff. But also then the part of my brain that was like, but you have to make money, you have to be successful. Like the parts that you're like, my parents were like, if you don't make a certain amount of money, then like you're going to like be on the streets and you're not going to live. And it's going like all I feel like it just like, once immigrant parents have that level of success that they've attained, they don't want their kids to like move away from that. And so I didn't really know what law looked like for me at that point. And then after college, I got a position as a legal secretary at a personal injury firm in Beverly Hills. And I mean, I like it was litigation is insane, and I don't think I would ever want to do it because your life is basically driven by court dates and deadlines. But I like the law itself, and watching those lawyers and the people on my team craft arguments and do like basically just like do their job was really interesting. And I I wanted to figure out how to make that fit, because I liked the idea of going to law school, but I didn't know what a career would look like, and I was worried that I would just be stuck in a job that I didn't like for the rest of my life. Because I was chasing this like this level of success that my parents have told me that is the only acceptable level, which it isn't, and I know that. But it's also just like once you get told that, like growing up, you're kind of scared if you don't have that. And I think there is still a little bit of that fear that still drives some of my decisions. Not all of them, but definitely some of them. And I think for me, entertainment law like really just fit with this idea that like, okay, I want to tell stories, I want to be involved in the process. In high school and college, I was really into theater in high school, and then having to do like pre-med and all of that stuff, I wasn't as into it in college. But towards the latter half of my time at Scripps, I got into some theater stuff. I wrote a short play, and I got to direct it and stuff like that at Pomona. I took a couple of theater classes, stage managed some stuff. So I was like, I like every aspect of telling a story. Whatever part of it I want to be a part of it. I like the people that I work with. Anyone who's passionate about what they do is just really like, those kinds of people are really fun to be around. And to have a part in that process in some way, where I can be creative but also have this like I like almost like a safety net in a way. And it's like it's like a real job in like in quotations. But like it doesn't feel like it's something that I would hate doing, because I'll be around people who are doing things that that I would want to do. And that's the way to kind of like make it in creative fields, is you kind of have to know people. And so I was like, well, like, okay, if I go to law school and I become an entertainment lawyer and I work on production, then I make friends with a bunch of producers and directors, and they like me for my work. And then I'll be like, hey, I wrote a thing. What do you think? And then they'll have to look at
plan.
it. Yeah, exactly. And the nice part about a law degree is that it's so versatile. So like for me, like let's say I practice law for a couple of years, and then my scheme works out. The fact that I have a law degree kind of helps with like my legitimacy almost. Like it sucks. It's so elitist and like
Yeah.
and just and like messed up because not everyone has the resources to
Right.
like fund that kind of education. You can have all the drive in the world, but if you don't have the money to back it up, then it's so much harder to get to where you are. And I feel like I have an insane amount of privilege just being able to be like, yeah, I have this plan, and like like it'll be fine. But but yeah, so I saw it as a way to kind of combine both of my interests, and like even if that my scheme never works out, which I doubt, because like there are some really shitty movies out there that get made. Like I've seen some movies where I'm like, I think I could have written that better. But you know, it's fine. I didn't make those decisions. But yeah, so that's where law kind of came into it. And then actually senior year, when Lena Waithe came to Scripps to talk about her experiences in entertainment. And then I went to that talk, and then I followed her a bit more on social media, and then she started her own production company. And within that production company, she has a mentorship program that focuses on helping marginalized voices and underrepresented communities in Hollywood like find a space. That's where that is where then like my like, oh, I can help people through this came in, because it's like, not only do I want to create stories that impact people in ways that can help them, but also I want to create spaces for other people that don't have that ability to like kind of like force their way into it. Like I am very privileged where I didn't have to worry about education costs growing up. And because of that, I'm in a position where I can line myself up to do things in entertainment and like make those connections, because I am going to law school, and I'm part of this fellowship program that is structured to make sure that I have those connections so that I can work in the field that I want to work in. And seeing Lena Waithe go like not have those things but still get to where she is, and is now making the space to bring other people up, was super inspiring. And I want not only my stories to affect people in positive ways, but I want other people to have the chance to be able to give their stories that space in the in like either like the literary canon or the film TV canon, whatever it is. Like these spaces have been so like white male dominant for so long, and that's changing finally. But right now, the types of people who are able to access those spaces as people of color, or as like any sort of marginalized voice, they like there's still a gap. There's like a distinction. Like Mindy Kaling went to an Ivy League college. Like you have some really inspiring people, but there are people whose stories are still not being told, and there's still that inequality that comes into play. And so then that became like another like it just like the process of figuring out like, okay, yeah, law school is what I want to do. All of those things came into play with that. And so, and like that honestly happened very recently, like middle of 2020, where I was like, oh, okay, no, I think this is what I want to do, and I'm okay with this. Like I had figured out that law school was something that I was okay with after I got in, and I was like,
Wow.
okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this. After I'd got in and I'd accepted it. When I'd accepted it, I was still unsure, and then I had to think about it for a little while, and then I was like, yeah, I'm okay with where I'm at, and now I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. But like for a while I was like, I don't know, maybe I should go back to med school. Like I had a moment at the beginning of 2020 where I was like, did I make a mistake? Because like, man, I hate working at this law firm. I don't hate the people. If anyone is listening from that law firm that I worked at over that 1 year, y'all were great. I don't like litigation, you guys. But yeah. So I had a moment, and that is when you leave pre-med and then you are considering going back to pre-med, you really have to be like, am I not getting enough sleep? Is this something that I like, should I just go to sleep? Because the answer is usually yes. Like if you had decided, if you spent like 3 years being like, oh, maybe I don't want to go to med school, and then you finally decide you don't want to go to med school, and then you're just tired and like your life kind of sucks right now, and like it's your first year out of college and you're kind of on your own, and you're just like, man, this plan had a lot of structure. Should I go back to that? Don't do it. You just need some sleep.
Wow, that's good advice to consider. It seems like your path has been really windy. Like you were really headstrong and going into med school, and then you decided maybe this isn't for me, and then now you're doing law. So I'm wondering, when did this idea of creating this book like come up, and then when did you really start pursuing it?
Yeah. So throughout all of this, all of that crazy shit that was going on in my head, I was always writing. I was always doing something, something with that. And so this book, I got the idea for it, I think my first semester at Scripps. I was listening to a song by this band called the Fratellis, and I was like, they had just released a new album, and there was a song on there called "Me and the Devil," and I was like, oh, this song slaps. No one said that in 2015, but
they felt it. They were thinking it.
Yeah. And so the song is about the chorus. It goes, "I'm gonna sell my soul tonight," and I was like, oh, this is cool. What kind of a person would want to do that? And then I just got really into that song, and one of my friends was like, it would make a really good number. It would make a really good opening number for a musical. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're right, because like it's a super cool song. And so I was like, oh, I would love to see this musical. And then I realized that no one was going to write it, because like it's not like the Fratellis are really popular in Europe. But I was like, they're not like American Idiot, like Green Day, where like everyone kind of knows them, or like ABBA. So it's like I was not expecting a jukebox musical to happen from them anytime soon. And then I was like, oh, but I really want to know what the story is like. And then it comes to a point where you're like, God damn it, the only person invested in this is me. And so I started thinking about, okay, well, like if I were to write this story, not saying that I would right now, but like if I were to write this story, what would it look like? And then it just turned into like the idea of a man so desperate enough to make a deal with the devil. I was like, okay, who has made deals with insidious people that don't work out? And I was just thinking about Greek mythology, and then Orpheus and Eurydice came up. And I was like, oh yeah, that was really interesting. That was a really interesting myth. And I also really liked, I don't know if you guys saw the Metamorphoses when Pomona College put it on. It's a gorgeous play. There's a pool on stage. That's the only set piece. But it's a collection of Greek tragedies, and the main theme of the play is that water is a central theme, and it symbolizes change and growth and transformation. And in high school, we had also put on that play, and I was in it. And the Orpheus myth was told twice, once through Orpheus's perspective and once through Eurydice's perspective. And I had never seen someone flip a Greek myth like that, where now it's the person who's getting saved telling the story. And like Orpheus is like all in his grief, and when he turns around in the show, when Eurydice is telling the story, she doesn't remember who he is, so she doesn't feel that grief that he does. And it was just so impactful for me. And that play and the story kind of wove into this song, and that's kind of how the book happened. But at 18, when I thought of the idea and really like kind of explored it a little bit, I got to that point and I was like, oh, I'm not mature enough to write this. Because I'd imagined my characters being in their mid-20s, and I was like, I don't know what adult life is like. I'm a child. I don't know what any of that would look like. And I felt like the themes were bigger than what I could do at that point at 18. So it was in my head. I wrote a couple of short sections of it throughout college. Like I found my notebook from like my sophomore year of college, where I had kind of been like, maybe I should start mapping the story out. And I had names for characters that have different names now, and like some things that have now turned into like plot twists were like things that I had just laid out in the open before. And it was, yeah, so that story grew a little bit with me through college, and then I started writing it towards the end of senior year. I was like, okay, I'm 22. I've done some shit. I've gone through life a little bit, not that much, but I've gone through life a little bit. I've lived on my own for a little bit. I kind of know what I want to do with it a bit more. And I was at the point where I was like, well, I haven't had any new ideas like this come up in a while, so maybe I should tackle this. I'll figure this out. And so I really started writing it during my year off in between law school and college. And then with that, I really started writing it when the pandemic started, because then I didn't have a full-time job, and I was able to move back home with my parents. And I had more time, and I had things to think. I was able to think about things in a different way. And so I finished the book in August or September. And I've been working on revising and rewriting some stuff since then, because up until December, just like I was still kind of like, there's something missing and I don't know what it is, and I don't know exactly how to do it right. But then December happened, and I went through a couple of things in my personal life and was like, oh, I know it. I know exactly what this book needs. There's nothing like something like really flipping your world upside down, where you're like, oh, this is exactly what I was missing. Like the silver lining, I think, in like any artist's life is like something unexpected happens and you're having to deal with it. And then your brain is just like, you know what? This is what I need. I know now. I know exactly how to make this story better. Which is, it's a fun way of going through life when something shitty and unexpected happens and you're like, yeah, this works. Okay, let's roll with it. So now I've obviously law school started again, and the first year of law school is like, you have no life outside of law school. So I've been trying to find little bits and pieces of time to to rewrite and revise and stuff, and hopefully find an agent who likes the story as much as I do, and then see where it goes from there.
Wow.
That's awesome. So just to clarify, you do have to like write the whole story and have it completely done before sending it to a publishing house?
Yeah. They so I mean, I guess it also kind of depends on like what kind of route you want to take with publishing, because traditional publishing is like you kind of have to have a full manuscript done, because if when you send out your queries, they usually ask for like either the first 5 pages or the first 5 chapters, and then if they like it enough, they expect you to send the whole thing. So like if you send someone a query and then like 2 months later they're like, hey, we like this, send us the full thing, and you don't have it done, then they're not gonna take it.
Exactly.
So because they want to evaluate the whole product. But a lot of people are getting into self-publishing, and it's a completely valid thing to do. I think traditional publishing is still very old school, and they kind of look down on self-publishing. But like if you have the ability and the time, like as much as I hate Amazon, they have made it really easy for people to self-publish, which is like, that's like, I guess, one good thing that's come out of it. But like really Amazon sucks, and support independent bookstores, you guys. But yeah, yes, so to answer your question, yes, you need to have a full manuscript done before you send it out to people.
You mentioned that you had this idea sitting since like, I guess 2015 when it started, and you had a whole plan, and then characters changed, and now you're like revising. So how do you know if your work is ever quote unquote done, and does it ever feel done? And or how do you even know if it's ready to go on to the next stage?
I don't know. I think it's different for everyone. For me, I was getting told by editors and people with this book that they were like, oh yeah, it's really good, like you have a solid manuscript. And I was like, I know. I mean, well, like I don't know, because one, I don't think it's as good as it can be. And for me that's really hard to distinguish between being like, oh, the project is not there yet, or like I'm being very hard on myself and I don't know if like what I am writing is matching up to what's in my head. Because whatever you produce will never be as good as it is in your head. It's just it's just not going to happen. The goal is to try to get as close as you can. And for this book, I knew there was something missing because the ending didn't feel as impactful to me as I wanted it to. And part of me was like, well, I've been with this story for, what am I? How old am I now? I don't know, like it's been like 5-6 years at this point. Wait, right? No? Right.
2015.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
5. Yes.
I can do
5,
math.
yeah.
This is why I'm in law school. But yeah, so I was like, I don't know if I've been with this story too long, and I just like, I've known the ending for so long that like I'm just like, yeah, whatever, this is how it ends. Or if I truly do feel like there is something missing. And for me, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but like other writers might be able to relate to it. Some of my characters won't shut up. They like, I have finished a version of the book, and some of the characters are like, yes, my story has been told, I am satisfied. And then some other characters are like, you forgot to mention all of this shit, I am not done with you yet. And if they were like side characters, like sometimes you have to kill your babies and just be like, you need like I want to explore this with you. I really do. But it has no space in this book. And you're not important enough for me to like dedicate more time and energy to it. And other times, like if it's like a main character, like with Here We Stand right now, I'm like, oh God, okay, yeah, I need to like all of these things were important, and I just in the first draft I didn't know how to integrate it in a way that makes sense, but now I know everything that's happening in the story, and now I can go back and fit that in, and yeah, I mean, sometimes you don't even figure that out until you're like in your third draft, because that's where I'm at right now. I'm like, I've revised it twice, and then December happened, and I was like, oh, okay, I know exactly what needs to happen now, and then I'll be done. But I think there's a moment for me where like it's kind of like when you're painting or when you're doing your makeup, where it's like, oh, this is perfect, but what if I could just improve it a little bit more, and then it gets worse. I've kind of
Winged
started
eyeliner.
exactly. I've kind of started identifying those moments where I've been like, oh, I could do this. But then it's like, is it necessary? Is there a purpose to it? And if the answer is no, then I'm like, okay, then I shouldn't. And that's kind of where I'm at. I think knowing when you're done comes with experience.
Yeah.
The
I feel
same
like
way with
that's
winged eyeliner.
I just feel like that's one of your life lessons. Like earlier you were saying, like with school, like you could do so many classes and like excel in them, but you had to learn yourself. Just because you can doesn't mean that you necessarily should. And here you are applying it to your writing. So I feel like it's very like full circle.
I never thought about that. That's smart. That's
In your life.
So you touched on like, I guess, coming to terms with your privilege and kind of, I guess, speaking from me, I just feel like me applying to med school, I feel very guilty when I have moments of like self-doubt because I'm like, oh, my parents provide so much for me. Like, I don't have it rough like so many other people. So I guess how have you been like working through kind of that those moments where like self-doubt comes in because of like that privilege that you have and you think like, oh, I shouldn't really feel this way because I know I have it like easier than my parents did.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like I have it so much easier than my parents did, and I have it so much easier than so many people in this country, especially right now with the pandemic. I feel like if I don't achieve the best results, like not just for me, but just like in general, I'm like, if my debut novel isn't a bestseller, if I'm not in the top of my class in law school, if I'm not doing all of these things, and I have it so much easier than so many other people, then am I really that good? Like if I can't do this with all of this help and support, then like am I as good as people say that I am? Or has this all just been I'm good because of the circumstances that I'm like my where I'm starting is like steps above where people normally start. So I'm just good because of where I'm at right now, not because of any ability or talent. And that's something that I'm still struggling with. Um, so I don't really know right now. I think it's just like I think it's really that made it really hard to fail at things. And I think for me, the ways, especially this past year, because I was writing the book when all of the Black Lives Matter movements were happening in June. And I had 3 weeks where I was like, I didn't write anything because I was like, I'm literally writing a story about like hell and like people falling in love and like the New York mafia. This has nothing to do, this is not impactful in any way. It doesn't give any sort of like like it's not the hate you give. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that has like social commentary about like
Mm-hmm.
political upheaval or the state of our nation at this point. So I was like kind of like, why am I even writing this? And it's just I think it's really hard to get past that, because you kind of have to just tell yourself like you're doing this for you, and you like you can acknowledge your privilege while also acknowledging the fact that you are working hard. Just because you are in a position that is like you're at a better point than a lot of other people doesn't mean that what you have achieved wasn't through hard work. It's just you've also just been given these opportunities because of what you were given. um like it's like I think people who have those opportunities given to them but then don't take it, or like take it but don't take it seriously, those things show in the work that they do. um and so like if like having an opportunity is one thing, but you have to put in the work to and show up to actually make something of it. And I think that's been the most helpful for me, is like, yes, anything worth doing is going to be hard, and just because it's hard for you doesn't like it doesn't negate the fact that you've had a lot of help, but it also that the fact that it's hard doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough to do it. um like it doesn't mean that you were just lucky enough to be able to be in a position to do this, because everything that you've worked on yourself thus far has led you to this point as well. Like if like I hadn't written that shitty book in middle school, then maybe I wouldn't have like not like knowing that I could write a book at some point really helped me drive this book forward. So I was like, well, I don't know if I have the time. And it's like, well, like you did it, like you've done it once, so you can do it again. And I feel like it's just I'm rambling at this point. But but I think just being able to acknowledge and accept your privilege and the amount of impact that it's had to where you're at, while acknowledging that the work that you've put in to get from where your privilege stops to where you are now is still hard work. Um yeah.
So it seems like this book might have like some perplexed, like I guess some darkness to it. And like the one that you wrote when you were in middle school also was pretty dark. So I was wondering, because as a reader, like when I read books that are heavy or sad or just a different mood than what I'm feeling, by the time I'm done reading the book, I like feel like the way that the book did. I'm like, oh my gosh, today's the worst day of my life, right? So as a writer, like, do you ever get those feelings, like being really engrossed in the book? And then how are you able to still like live your life while also doing the job of writing it?
I
Yeah.
also add on
Hmm.
that it seems like a lot of your interest lies in like the fantasy realm, which I think is really
Mm-hmm.
interesting because that's not really something that are those types of that genre is something that I naturally just gravitate towards. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just like, because you have like this interest in fantasy novels, your book is fantasy novel, seems like you have like a history of fantasy novels as well. So yeah, just piling on to that
Okay.
question there.
Um, so I'll answer Kimmy's question first because I'm gonna forget, and
Okay.
it's gonna
It's
be
totally
it's gonna be
fine.
bad. So I think so having done theater for a little while, I was able to sort of just treat it like I'm playing a character in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never really thought about this in that way. Because I got the idea for the book like relatively happy. I was 18. I didn't know a lot about life. I was just like, yeah, I'm starting college. Like it was like it was the first few weeks of college, and I was like super excited. I still had like life in my eyes, and yeah, I think the themes itself are just, they're things that I find interesting. I don't necessarily like, I guess I don't dwell on it too much. But like I think for me writing is a safe way to explore a lot of those like dark things. And also just if I am experiencing something like that and having to feel my feels, it's a great way to kind of just do that in a safe place. So for me, I think just because I've had experience like playing characters who are kind of messed up, and also just playing characters who are nothing like me at all, and then being able to be like, yes, I am now transitioning out of that. Never really had that feeling that much, but for me, when I read, that's a different thing, because when I'm reading, I'm engrossed in someone else's world, whereas with this book, I'm the one creating it. Like I'm like God in this universe. So I like it's really easy for me to kind of detach myself from the things that are happening, which kind of, now that I think about it, maybe that's why there are so many crappy things happening in the universe, because God is just like, yeah, I made y'all. What else do you want me to do? But that's a side note. That's just something that I was like, oh, do I understand God a little bit more now? I don't know. But yeah, no, definitely when I'm reading, I do feel those things. Like when I finished The Hunger Games, and I was just like the ending is hopeful, but like it was like you still have to go through all of this trauma to get there. And I was like, oh God, I'm like feeling some shit. And yeah, or like, well, when I read The Fault in Our Stars in high school, and I was just like the ending is also hopeful with that, but I was just like, oh my God, he died. It's like she loves him, and like I do like books that I read and like movies I watch and things, and just like stories I consume stay with me a lot longer than things that I write on my own.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then for
Mine wasn't a question.
Yours wasn't a question. It was just
a comment.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for fantasy, I grew up reading Harry Potter. Like that's the reason why I love reading, and it's the reason why I started writing, was just because I was like, oh, I want to go to Hogwarts. And also, just side note, J.K. Rowling is a TERF, and screw her. The Harry Potter books were written by Daniel Radcliffe.
He was like,
but,
what, 2?
Yes. And that's what it feels like in my heart. But like I don't know, like being a kid who like wasn't allowed to like do a lot of things, because I feel like immigrant parents are just scared of the world, and they don't know what the world like they had a very, very distinct experience of coming to America and what sorts of things they experienced. And then times change, but those experiences that they had are still very like they're not fun experiences. They're like pretty traumatic experiences. And I think they want to shelter their kid from that, but people have changed, and like society has changed a lot since like my parents came here. And like when I was growing up, I didn't feel the same like prejudices and things like that that my parents experienced, but like I dealt with different things, and then I feel like if I have any kids, they'll be dealing with different things than I did. But reading, and especially reading fantasy, was like just like, oh, this world is so much more interesting than ours. And I can do so many things through this character that I'm playing, that like I'm reading. And being able to experience different people's lives through that was, and also just like be like, yeah, magic is real. People are cool. This is super awesome. I'm going on an adventure. That was, I think that's why fantasy drew me to a lot of all of that.
Wow.
But yeah.
And Rena, do you have any parting words that you want to say to our listeners, or advice?
Do what you want. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not qualified to give
do
advice.
Do what you want? Question mark.
Yeah. Do what you want. Go to therapy. And try to be happy. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not qualified to give advice, but
well, you did give that one. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if you can't, you could.
There you go. There you go.
There's some good ones.
Yeah. Oh, and if you don't like reading, you haven't found the right book.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rena, for coming on. We really enjoyed hearing your story and all about your life and your upcoming book. It's very exciting. Can you share with our listeners where people can find you on socials? And can you give more context as to when your book is on the shelves?
Yeah. So to answer your last question first, I don't know when my book will be on shelves yet. But to stay updated on all things happening with me, including law school and any future projects, some of which are coming soon and are probably very exciting. So I am on Instagram and Twitter. My handles for both of them are Rena Patel Writes, and it's my name is spelled Rena, and then Patel is Patel, and Writes is just like how you write. And I do have a website. It's very bare bones right now. But it's at rena-patel.com.
Wow.
But yeah, that's where you can find me, and stick around for cool things, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely, follow her. Sounds like there's a lot of exciting things coming, so we're all very excited.
Thank you.
And we'll link all of that information in the episode description. And when the book does come out, we'll definitely make sure to share it on our Instagram. So thank you everyone for listening. You can follow us at Adulthood Pending Podcast on Instagram and all of our other social medias. And if you're interested, you can send us an email to hello.adulthoodpendingpodcast@gmail.com. Join us every other Monday for new episodes. We're excited to share our stories, and we're glad that you're with us on our adulthood journey for season 2.
Thanks again, Rena, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.